for this Sunday afternoon. First and foremost, I just want to say Happy Women's Day to everyone else on the call. We are blessed today. We only have a women panelist. So welcome to the leadership game with myself, Pat Mazibuko. Thank you so much. That being said, colleagues, I would want us to proceed and then proceed with the issues of the day. May I then say to each and everyone else that leadership game session today, our nurturing leadership. So we are very grateful to have each and every one of you here. May I also tell you, colleagues, that I am not a leadership guru at all, but I am just a passionate and a permanent leadership student. That being said, colleagues, I want to acknowledge that we've got amongst us women thought leaders, and I've always considered women to be the wheels of the family. Magic, somebody says there's no order. Please, will you attend to that, sir? I've always thought that women are the wheels of the family. They are the ocean of knowledge, and they are the mirror of the children that we have, and they are the address of love, but most importantly, they are the navigator of the lifeboat. So I would want us to get started, colleagues, and Maggie, can I ask that we then do the introduction of our guest, the TLG way. Thank you so much. Over to you, Maggie. Yes, I can hear you, Magic.
Yes.
Now you can proceed. Thanks. So are we done with the introduction, Magic? Okay. Thank you so much, colleagues. My deepest apology for that glitch, technically. So, colleagues, let us proceed. I have always said that everything rises and falls in the hands of leadership, be it perfect or imperfect. Secondly, I've maintained that once you are in a leadership position, people automatically run to you with the hope that you're going to give them some leadership solutions, and then they surprise themselves at the end of the day when there's nothing that is forthcoming. Hence, assuring and nurturing leadership. That being said, colleagues, before I introduce our guest speaker for today, I just wanted to share a short story. And it goes like this, and I don't know who is the author of the story, but it basically captures today's story. Basically, there was an old farmer who was in the farming business. So this guy was in a corn seed business, and every year for 15 years, he was getting an award for being the best corn farmer of the year. So on year number 16, a young journalist went to him and said, look, sir, I have observed that for the past 16 years, you've been getting the award for being the best farmer for the corn. So how are you doing it? What is your secret? So the old man looked at this young, inquisitive journalist and said, I share my best corn seed with my neighbors. So the young journalist said, well, I actually do not get it. How is it possible that you share your best secret with your neighbors? And the old farmer said, you don't get it. If I do not share my best corn seed with everybody else, then when it comes to the time for cross-pollination, I'm going to pull myself down. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to each and every one of you to the leadership game with myself, Mazibuko. And I also want to welcome those that are on Facebook, live on Facebook, and also live on YouTube. That being said, the agenda for today is about all of us being thought leaders, sharing the best seed with everybody else. May I then go and then introduce our guest speaker for today. And colleagues, it's well packed. I'm not going to be long. Our guest speaker is Ms. Lindi Mthombeni, and she is known as Sis Lindi Mthombeni. I've known her for more than 29 years of my life. I met her when I was a young engineer, a young manager at Eskom. She's one of those people who will take a very young and 29 years of my life, mentor them, take them when I was a young engineer, a young manager. So where does this Lindi come from? She is the lady born and bred in South Africa, studied in South Africa, and also studied abroad, worked abroad and came back to South Africa and was one of the few female Black senior executives in the late 1990s, early 2000s. So Sis Lindi is married to Mthombeni, blessed with a good family, and I've known her. And without any further waste of time, I just want to hand over to Lindi to take us through the sessions for today. So Sis Lindi, you've got almost up until 5 o'clock, plus or minus 5 o'clock, but I'll come in and interject. I'll keep on warning you if you are about to exceed time. But look, I will see how far it goes. Over to you then, Sis Lindi. Thank you. May I ask that all of us, please, shall we remain on mute and switch off our videos? The rules of the games are as follows. When you are talking, you then switch on your mic, and then also unmute. So switch on your video and unmute. Over to you, Sis Lindi. Go for it. Take it from here.
All right. Good afternoon. Thank you, Pat. Let me start by thanking you for giving me the opportunity to share my journey, also share my understanding of this particular my concept, assuring and share leadership. My understanding. I have to declare upfront that most of what I'll be sharing today is drawn from my own personal journey, my own studies, the review of different books, as well as just observing different leaders. I think I want to start by affirming what you said earlier on, Pat. I don't know whether my video is on. I can't see myself, so if you can see me very well.
You are on, Sis Lindi. You are on. We can see you loud, very well. Thank you so much.
All right. Yeah, I wanted to confirm what you said earlier on. The journey of leadership is an interesting journey. You never stop learning. You can never say you are a guru. You can never say you have it all, you know it all. So what I'm sharing today is part of what I understand, hoping that the panels that have been, the panelists that have been introduced this afternoon will also top up on what I have shared. I must indicate that some of it will also be my own personal journey, my own personal experience, my upbringing. So without wasting time, let me get started with the presentation. I will attempt to just give a broad introduction, as well as just a short observation that I've done in terms of leadership, as well as just taking a glance on what is the state of the leadership currently, what the demographics that we are working with as part of our workforce, as well as defining then what's assuring as the characteristics of assuring leader, what's nurturing and the characteristics. But I want to spend a bit of time talking about the role of women in assuring and nurturing. I will draw a lot from my own personal history or my own upbringing. I want to introduce this topic by just picking up on a few of quotes that I came across. Some of the quotes are the quotes that I grew up familiar with. The first quote is taken from a book that was written in the early 20th century, 1903, written by a very well-known religious writer, Ellen White. In her book, Education, she quotes, "The greatest want of the world is the want of men and women who will not be bought or sold. Men and women who do not fear to call sin or wrong by its right name. Men and women whose conscience is as true to duty as a needle to the pole. Men and women who will stand for the right though the heavens fall." Now, you know, when I look at this quote, it's so relevant in this day and age, so relevant in the century that we live in, because of the kind of incidences, the kind of issues that we're grappling with in the space of leadership. Now, another quote is from a leader that I've grown to follow because of his breakthrough in terms of reorganizing and repositioning GE. Jack Welch was the chairman and CEO of General Electric in the early 80s up to 2001. He's the leader among leaders, the leader that actually set the pace and redirected the focus of leadership. He changed how businesses or entities were managed by directing from away from command and control system of management to looking at strategic as well as vision focused leadership, form of leadership. So there are two quotes that I really thought are very relevant for today's talk. The first quote says, "Before you are a leader, success is all about growing yourself. But when you become a leader, success is all about growing others." You know, I read this and I'm at pain because I find that most of our leaders miss this point. They don't realize that the strength of the entities, the success of the entities is dependent on the leaders for focusing on developing the workforce, focusing on training the workforce. The second quote that I found was very relevant for this, again from Jack Welch. He says, giving people self-confidence is by far the most important thing that I can do, because then they will act. And this is so true. And in my journey as a leader, I have seen, and I can confirm that this sets you up very well as a leader in terms of achieving your goals, in terms of making sure that the workforce works towards the common vision of the entity. Now, I just want to draw your attention to something that I've been discovering slowly as I embrace and as I study the issue or the topic on leadership. You know, one of the things that has been an eye-opener for me, well, the greatest leaders are those who identify potential, they nurture that and grow it to full maturity. And I believe that strongly that, you know, one of our downfall as a country, one of our downfall, in fact, as various entities, is the fact that, you know, some of big organizations, they have invested a lot on succession planning. But when time comes for those successors to be put in positions, the very managers who have identified them as their successors are the managers that should shoot them down. In fact, it starts even with the process where the progress of the individual is being assessed. You find that now the managers that have given or the leaders that have given the names of their successors start second guessing them. The reason being the fact that most of our leaders, they are not matured enough to understand what leadership is all about. When you are a leader, you don't have room to be to be threatened by your subordinate, or to be threatened by the people you are supposed to mentor and groom. But you have to command, you have to have the authority, you have to have confidence, self-confidence that you are in that position, you are justified to be in that position. But we find that because of our circumstances, one reason or the other, we put in place people that lack confidence, people that get threatened easily by some of the young people who show potential of being great leaders. So I think that this very point is very important. Another point that I wanted to emphasize, you know, one of the things I've discovered is that the issue of leadership, the issue of great leadership, it's not something that you developed or there's something that you get into as an old person. Grooming a leader starts early in life, and grooming a leader never stops. I think I want to give two examples. I want to give the example of the fact that, you know, when Paul, now I'm going to refer to another book that is very close to my heart, the Bible. When Paul discovers Timothy, the second and first and second Timothy, the letters to Timothy, he embraces the potential that he sees in Timothy. He starts mentoring and training Timothy, and he starts giving him and coaching him as he faced difficulties, as he faced challenges in his journey into leadership. You know, one of the things that I realized is that Paul's focus was not Timothy more than the bigger vision and the mission. So he knew very well for the mission and the vision to be achieved, he needed to make sure that he invests in Timothy. And as I look at this story, as I look at this, I realize that one of our downfall as leaders is the fact that we fail to identify potential and invest in that potential to make sure that the vision and the mission of the company, the vision and the mission of the company is realized. But more than anything, that the company is sustainable. One of the things that I want to go back to Jack Welch, because Jack Welch is one of the leaders that really was an eye-opener for me. He talks about the fact that leaders who cannot embrace change haven't really reached the state of being great leaders. Leaders who cannot face reality of situation around them and make sure that they adjust and adapt to those situations, haven't understood or realized or been aware of what it takes to be a great leader. So I think that's why I draw a big lesson from Paul with regards to the fact that his focus was not on his own self. He was comfortable with himself as a leader, but he was focusing on making sure that they continue with the vision and the mission. Assuring and nurturing leaders never see their mentees as a threat. Again, I want to, rather they focus their minds on the ultimate goal. Great leaders expect and support their mentees to exceed and go beyond what they have achieved. Now, this is another great one where, you know, I looked again, referring to the book that's close to my heart, the Bible. I looked at the story of Elijah and Elisha. Elijah had been mentoring Elisha. Now, a time was coming where he was going to hand over the reins to Elisha, and he asked him, "What is it that you desire of me?" And Elisha, without flinching, without betting, he says, "I desire a double portion of what you had." In other words, I want to do far more than what you've done. And that never shook Elijah. Instead, it gave him and affirmed him that his investment in Elisha was worthwhile. He looked at the bigger picture. In fact, if you read the story of the two prophets, you will see that actually, indeed, Elisha did far more than what Elijah did, because the wasn't feeling threatened. He indeed was willing to bless and request that Elisha would be blessed with a double portion of what he had. Now, this also reminds me of our role as parents, because parents are the first leaders that nurture and groom the children to be the future leaders. There is no parent who raises a child to be below where they are or at level of where they are. As parents, we always desire our kids to go far and beyond where we are. As a result, it should be the case as a leader, not only in the home, but also in your work environment. As a leader, you should not be comfortable that people are below you. You should not be comfortable that you're constantly keeping people either at level or below you. You should seek every time to see people going and surpassing you, because that's a show of your success as a leader. Never claim ownership or a stake in your mentee's success. It's not about you. It's about the bigger vision, the sustainability of the organization or entity that you are leading. Because once you start focusing on yourself, you are limiting what else you can do to actually even propel that person even further. Now, I want to go to the next slide where I want for us to look at what the status of leadership is currently. Because from here, I would like to just then give pointers of what are the characteristics of true leaders. Leaders currently are driven by greed. They focus on personal gains. And we all can agree on that. I mean, we worked with situations like those. They lack confidence in themselves. As a result, they bully subordinates. They lack character, integrity. They are driven by numbers or the bottom line, not by the vision. They cannot face reality. In other words, they are comfortable with the mediocre that they manage under. They fear change because change means that it's either they are exposed or they are unsettled in their own ability to lead. They lack agility. Sorry. They emphasize supervision instead of a vision, and they thrive on micromanagement. This is what we are dealing with currently. And I would like for us to look at how do we change this picture for us to be able to position ourselves as leaders, but more than anything, to position our country, because I think the state of our country currently requires leaders that are better focused, leaders that know what being a leader, what leadership is all about. Before I get to that, I wanted for us to just spend a few minutes looking at the demographics of our workforce. Currently, we have 4 generations of leadership in most of our organizations. We have baby boomers. We have what we call the 13ers or Generation X. We have the millennials or Generation Y, and the new silent generation, which is Generation Z. Now, I've given different characteristics of this generation, and I think what scares me with us as leaders is that we never apply our minds into understanding the people who are supposed to lead. What are the characteristics of this? Because for each generation, there's different things that drive them. There's different things that resonate with them in terms of what they require from us as leaders. I mean, baby boomers already, they are hardworking. They've grown up. They've managed. They've been managed by command and control. So they are used to the lifetime of working for the same company. They really thrive in that environment. But the new generation that's coming up, they are tech savvy. They really have entrepreneurial skill. But more than anything, they need the flexibility. They need to be allowed, to balance their lives. They need to be allowed to work in a certain style of environment. So unless as leaders we understand our workforce and the different demographics that we lead, we are hitting in the dark. That's why Jack Welch talks about facing the reality and positioning yourself to be able to address these realities. Unlike the baby boomers, the new generations that are coming up, they are easy to get in an environment. Within 2 years they leave because they are not getting what they want from the employer. Now, if you are the organization that is looking at grooming leadership from within, if you're not attending to your demands from or your requirements from your workforce, you will find that you're constantly investing in grooming leadership that soon leave you after you've invested. Why not understand them and then make sure that the environment you create is an environment that would make them want to stay in your business, so that when you are ready to appoint a leadership, you are appointing leadership that you've already grown from within. I think for me, one of the biggest worry is the organization that fails to see potential within itself. Because most companies invest a lot in training and developing its workforce. How can you invest so much only to then doubt yourself that you have leaders, that you have groomed leaders within yourself Why are you going outside? Why not promote from within? Because the people within are people who
Sis
already.
Lindi, you've got
Yes.
about 45 minutes.
Oh, thank you.
Sis
You
Lindi,
have
can I interject?
Yes, sir.
You've got about 45 minutes, so you can still do, but at exactly 5:15, I will then take over from you. So you still have about 45 minutes to go. So I'll tell you when you've got about 30 minutes, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. So I think it's very important that then you understand when you're grooming your workforce, you know exactly how to retain them. Now, Dr. Mazibuko has put pressure on me. I'm a bit nervous, but I'll try and do justice. Now, let's look at assuring and nurturing leadership. What exactly is assuring? It just says you're telling someone something positive to dispel any doubts. You know, most of the people, you know, as they grow up in a business, they have doubts whether they have the qualities or whether they have what it takes to be leaders. So an assuring leader is a leader that gives that confidence to the individual that yes, you have, yes, you have a bright future ahead of you. Don't be afraid or ashamed to tell a person, because not everybody is actually geared up for leadership, because there are certain qualities that are required for you to really be a true leader. We're not doing justice in appointing leaders. We're not looking at the qualities. As a result, you find that some people, we put them in leadership position where we kill their careers because they collapse. They cannot cope with what we put them into. So, and assuring leaders are sure of the individual's ability. So when you look at potential, you know what the person is capable of. You are comfortable that the individual can push beyond their current position. You are able to instill confidence in that individual. You are able to see the best in them, and you are willing to take a risk on that individual. I mean, one of the biggest things for great leaders is that a great leader would put a person and take a risk on a person and also be ready to protect that person. Don't put the person under the bus when you've put them, when you've trusted them and put them at risk. Be willing and ready to then step in and take the heat from that person. That's a sign of a great leader. Focus on capacity to grow, not the personal gain. So let's look at the characteristics of an assuring leader. You have an open mind. You see a good in others, and you are willing also to listen to other people's opinions. You offer advice at will, and you can counsel people. You have people to count on you. You are happy when the people can count on you. You have a good listening skill. You find that it's easy for you to confide, that people find it easy to confide in you. In other words, you create an environment for people to be able to open up with you. Because when you are a mentor is a person that can allow the mentee to be vulnerable. In other words, they need to be able to be vulnerable with you, knowing very well that you keep whatever you discuss in confidence, that you also can give them an honest opinion and as well as an honest guidance in terms of what they're grappling with. You have people like Jack Welch, the great leaders. They set a path and people are willing to follow them because they trust them and because they can see that they are visionaries. They see beyond what other people see. So you have to be that kind of a leader where people can see that you are a visionary, that you are worthwhile being followed. They can still insist on excellence. One of the things that I want to emphasize, just because you assure and nurture people doesn't mean that you expect mediocre from them. You still expect excellence, but you are willing to take a risk where they can fall and get up and get going. But eventually, your aim is for them to exceed. You have a positive attitude. You treat people with respect, and you're genuinely caring about others. You show confidence and caring. I think I want to emphasize, keep these characteristics in mind, because when we go at the end and discuss about women in leadership, you're going to find that most of these are already there, you know, especially with women, because as mothers, some of these characteristics come naturally. Now, looking at nurturing leadership. Nurturing means you protect, you support, and encourage. Protect, support, and encourage. Now, protect, you protect from, you know, attacks, because while a person is growing, they're going to make a lot of mistakes. So as a leader, you always need to be willing to step in and protect that person. You always have to be willing to take the flag. Don't push the person forward when things have fallen apart and say, no, 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 I didn't do it. He did it. No, as a leader, that shows weakness. You cannot put your own employees under the bus, especially when you are a mentor. Because all leaders, we mentor the people that we lead. So protecting them becomes one of the strengths that or qualities that we need to show strongly. We need to support them at all times. In other words, provide all the resources and all the means for them to ensure their success and encourage them. So how do we nurture? We give increased responsibility. You push them, but you protect them. You offer a proper program of mentorship. You provide training in areas of development. In other words, constant feedback and development of the people you mentor is very critical. You recognize achievements and show appreciation. In other words, where the individual has done very well, don't wait until the end of the year. Don't wait until the manager's awards. Constantly give feedback, constantly appreciate that individual. That's sign of a great leader. Just because you're a leader and you appreciate your employees doesn't make you less of a leader. It actually it propels you to another level, because the people that you lead, the people that you meet, they gain confidence. As a result, they go far beyond what you require of them, because they know that they are working for somebody who appreciates, somebody who recognize what they put in terms of the efforts they put in. So let's look at the qualities of a nurturing leader. It's somebody who has courage. You can tell people sometimes as a leader, you need to tell people the truth. You're not afraid to tell the people the truth, because the only way by which they can learn and improve and be better is by you being honest and being truthful. Another thing is that when you've made a mistake, don't be afraid to say, listen, I've made a mistake there. It's on me. I'm sorry. Do not fear taking the decision when you are not sure of the outcome, because everybody is looking at you. As a leader, if you're not moving, nobody else is going to move. Leaders need to be ethical. This one is very big. You need to treat people ethically, but more than anything, beyond treating people ethically, you need to also create an environment for them to do the right things. Don't be the person, the people that push your people to do the wrong. That's a sign of a weak leadership. Be resilient. You need to be firm and strong, because again, people look at you as the leader, because employees or your subordinates take the cue from you as to how you respond to difficult times. When you crumble as a leader, the whole workforce crumbles. You need to be humble. Humility is very important. Arrogant leaders, they make excuses, they blame others, they even lie to save face. Humbly admitting when you are wrong shows strength in leadership. We need to be honest. You need to be transparent in everything that you do. It's important that you build the trust among the people you lead, but also among your own peers. Your peers need to know that you're a leader who is honest, you're a leader who maintain a strong degree of integrity. Be decisive. Don't be wishy-washy. People need a decisive leader. Make the decision, move with the decision. Be optimistic. Be purposeful. Act on with a purpose. You need to show people that there is a purpose in everything in life, because then you create that environment for your future leaders, for them to be able to seek to solve problems and to help people to improve their lives. You need to have growth in your mind. Leaders are people who ever have to protect the sustainability of the business. Now, when I talk about the growth, it's not only the growth in terms of the bottom line, but the growth in terms of the workforce, the growth in the team, the growth, the ability for the team to grow. You need to be accountable. Emotional intelligence, that's very important. Leading with empathy, being aware of other people's emotions. Again, this goes together with being aware of the workforce that that is within your team. What generation are you leading as a leader of the team? Do you know what they expect from you as the leader? And are you empathetic enough to meet them at their point of need? You need to be confident in yourself. When a leader who's not confident in himself cannot lead, because when you're not confident in yourself, you're going to stifle the other people who have potential to actually rise and do great. Now, this is a topic where I want to spend a little bit of time, because we are in August, where we celebrate Women's Month, and greatness comes from women. I think we sometimes we want to deny that, but that's the reality. I want to relate this using again an example of mothers who were the greater, who played a bigger part in the success of their children in later life. I mean, I read a quote where Barack Obama credited his success as a leader to his mother, his upbringing. He says his mother played a big role in who he is. Now, I want to step back again and go back into the book that is my favorite book, because I think as I journey in life, I find that I learn a lot in all the materials that I have around me that build me and build my character. I want to look at, I think those who are Christians, they know the story of Moses. But I want to unpack Moses' mother's role. There's three women who are playing part in the life of Moses. We have the mother who already says greatness in Moses. She moves mountains to protect the life of the little child. She puts him in a river where the child the whole day has no comfort of the mother. The child is crying, but she risks all and gets his child to get used to being comforted by the sound of the river. He is put to sleep by the sound of the river. He is learning to be okay with being isolated from family. That's part of the journey that Moses is being put in. His mother is not aware of this, but his mother is starting his journey as a future leader. He has the nature to comfort him. He has silence that he has to be comfortable with. We have a sister who is keen, who has a keen eye. When Moses is finally being picked up by the daughter of Pharaoh, his sister sees the opportunity. You see, Moses had to be raised under his mother's guidance for him to appreciate and understand the people he is going to lead in the future. Once he reached the 12 years, he was put under the leadership or under the nurturing of Pharaoh's daughter. There he had to lead, he had to learn protocol. He had to learn the politics of Egypt, of the Pharaoh, for him to be able to negotiate for the children of Israel to come out. You see that the women play so much role in his preparation in his initial stage. And then you have him going into the wilderness, working in the mountains of Midian. He is in isolation. He has only nature to contend with. Because he's used to the silence of being in the river, he is okay with being there. And he can listen to nature. He can listen and actually even be able to hear God talks to him. Now, I think the role of this mother that they played in preparing Moses for leadership is very critical. That's a role that you see even our own mothers. So I want to share my own personal journey, something that I've never done to anybody. My journey starts with my great-grandmother, who raised me from the age of birth to 10 years. Now, I grew up in an environment where poverty was real. I grew up in an environment where the whole environment, if I was focused on it, if I was raised by somebody who was negative, would have influenced me and depressed me. But I was raised by the greatest woman ever, my great-grandmother, who was a humble, a very loving and kind person, who took a little girl who was scared of the darkness. I slept on the bed with my grandmother, scared of the darkness. My grandmother would not fall asleep until I slept. I learned to listen to stories through her. She would tell me stories. I would close my eyes and visualize everything that she was telling me. She would tell me stories about, this house that was built out of candy or out of sweets. And I would visualize myself owning that house. And I literally, every day, I wanted to own that house. Do you see how now this is grooming me for the future? Because I'm not looking at the poverty, the tin roof house, the tin house that we are living in. I'm already visualizing a better house than that, because she is putting that in my mind. She talks about a giant who owned a goose that was laying golden eggs. Going to move mountains to get that goose. And she was grooming me and not being aware that she's grooming me for greatness, because now I'm visualizing, now I'm positioning myself for all of that. Now my mother steps in when she realizes that I'm hungry for books. I love books. I excel at school. I'm at top. Now my mother was not educated. Her story is very tragic. She was abandoned by her own mother at the age of 2 years. She found herself being raised by her grandmother, who later raised me. So she didn't have an understanding of how she's going to take this girl who's hungry for education. My mother had to put herself back, humble herself, and look for my father to take me and put me through school. Now, that's a sign of true leadership. Mothers are leaders, not by default. It's built in them, for them to see the need of others and put those needs forward and see the potential in the little child. She was not educated, but she saw the potential, and she decided that she was going to humble herself and move mountains to make sure that her child succeeds. Her child goes beyond what she had achieved. Now, those are signs of visionaries. Those are signs of a person who's empathizing with what she sees in her little girl and wants to see the best, for her little girl. Now, I want to also put in something that my mother instilled in me. My mother, with no education, taught herself to sew, taught herself to knit and do everything. She was a gardener. Today, I'm a gardener. I love gardening. Today, I can make anything with my hands, but I don't want to focus on that. My mother had to make a living out of those things. She would wake up at 4 o'clock, go into the factories, negotiate with the people who are coming out on Friday for them to buy her wares. And she was very good at that. And she would take me with her, and I would observe her, how she interacts with people, with humility, with respect, but more than anything, she knew how to negotiate with people and meet those people halfway. Today, I find myself that I'm able to do all of those things because of what I learned out of her. She would send us on Saturday and get us to go and sell some of the wares. I learned how to trade, how to sell from her, for her encouraging us. In fact, one of the things that I learned also was empathy. My mom would say to us, if you find an old person that they are interested in these things but they don't have enough money, just give them and let them give you whatever they can give you. She taught me empathy. She taught me how to meet people halfway. So women play a big role when it comes to nurturing and assuring the children. That then translates into the qualities that are required for great leaders. So when those qualities haven't been instilled in a younger age, it's difficult to get some of the empathy. Is not something that you can learn from the book. Integrity is not something that you can learn. You can learn it from the book, but if you not have been raised, humility, it's not something that you can learn from the books. It's something that is built in you. You are shaped by the environment, how you're being raised to be empathetic, to be honest, to be to be humble. So one of the things that I want to emphasize now, to come back to my slide, women leaders are great communicators. They have to be great communicators because they're constantly having to answer questions from these little ones. That grooms them, develop them, for them to be able, even in the boardrooms, to communicate their needs, to communicate their challenges. Women are great mentors and coaches. I've already explained to explain that. They are visionaries. They can see a little child and see the potential. In fact, one of the things that amazed me when my mother passed away, the number of young people from the community who were crying as if they had lost their own mothers because of the role she played, not only in mentoring and coaching us. We never realized that he was mentoring and coaching some of the young people in the community. They said she is the one person who took time to stop and ask, so how are you doing? Where are you now? Oh, you want to do so and so. Did you talk to so and so? She would guide them and direct them to where they would get help. So she was very good at them. The women are team players. It's easy for women to gather together. I mean, stock fairs are started by women. So they are team players. They are able to pull resources together and be able to achieve great things. They are emotionally intelligent. I've said they have empathy. They are great at empowerment. They are great at multitasking. They can wear many hats. So to emphasize, yes,
Sis Lindi, may I just come in? You've got exactly 25 minutes. You've got exactly 20 minutes, not 25, 20 minutes. I'll now come in the last 5 minutes. Thanks, you may proceed.
I think I'll be done in the next 10 minutes. Thanks, Dr. Pet. So mothers are the first educators. They are great mentors and coaches. I've said that. They are first to motivate their little ones to greatness. They are great at empowering. They are resourceful, and they are great communicators. Now, in conclusion, sorry, Pet, looks like I'm doing it in less than that. Great leaders do not desire to lead by themselves. That's Miles Monroe. That's very powerful. Servant leadership is very important. When you understand that concept, you are in line to be one of the great leaders. As we look ahead to the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. That's Bill Gates. So I'm now pausing on this one because I want this to sink into those who are positioning themselves to be the future leaders. You need to understand that unless you empower others, you will not achieve the greatness that you want to achieve. In the 21st century, the right caliber of leaders will determine the success of the organization. The new generation of employees require flexibility. The leaders who are flexible, leaders who are visionaries and assuring and nurturing leaders. Long-term commitment employees are retiring. Otherwise, the baby boomers are retiring, being replaced by a group of employees that demands assuring and nurturing before any long-term commitment. Financial sustainability alone doesn't guarantee the long-term sustainability of an institution. Looking after your workforce, empowering, growing and mentoring and developing your workforce is also an integral part of your success or sustainability. Facing the reality of the changes, both with regards to products and services, is no longer enough, but also the emotional state of the workforce. Remuneration and awards alone cannot guarantee long-term commitment of employees. That's all, folks. Thank you very much. Rapet, it looks like I finished before time.
Wow, Sis Lindi, wow. Thank you so much. You know, you've really outdone yourself. So, colleagues, I want us to do the following now. I want us to respond to Sis Lindi's presentation. So I'm going to start off with Rulani. I want to bring you in, Rulani. I want to bring you in. Please respond to Sis Lindi's presentation. You can ask a question or comment. Rulani, please go for it. Switch on your camera and then unmute. Proceed, Rulani.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doc. And thanks a lot, Sis Lindi, for such a great presentation. When you were presenting, I was just reflecting and also seeing the true you, how truthful the presentation was, because I know you also on the personal level and what you have done for most of us as leaders today. And I think one of the biggest things that this lady has highlighted is the issue of leaders being able to share responsibility. The way to help others to grow is to give them enough responsibility. Giving them enough responsibility, meaning we are able to also increase and realize that failure is part of it. Most of the leaders that have achieved a lot, they will tell you that you need to be able to fail enough. You need to be comfortable in failing. If you look at Thomas Edison in terms of inventing the light bulb, if you look at how many times when he was interviewed and asked, what made you succeed? What are those things that made you succeed in terms of this invention? He himself, he mentioned that, and then one of the interviewers said, but I understand you've been failing 10,000 times. You've been failing so many times. He said, what I have learned, I now know 9,999 times how not to do it. So meaning every time we fail, it's a great lesson that we have, that we take along. And every time we fail ourselves, we become humble enough so that we can grow a thick skin, we can grow the grace that is required to be able to nurture, to be able to allow others to fail. So I think what she really presented and reflected on, I took that and I could really see it, that most of the people that we have mentored and mentored to date, when I look back, they are very far. Mainly because we allowed them to fail enough. We allowed them to learn. We had enough grace for them to be able to grow. We had enough grace because we ourselves have failed enough. And as women leaders, I cannot emphasize the fact that we bring along the nurturing as something that we are born with, not something that we've learned, as something that comes natural on us. So yes, Doc, I think on my side, those are the critical aspects that I would like to contribute. And again, thank you a lot for such a brilliant presentation that she's given us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rulani. Thanks a lot. Well put. Shall we go to Professor Anjazi? Prof, please come in. Have your say on the issues of today. Come in, Prof.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you very much, and for the invitation, but also for the powerful speaker of the day. Thank you, Sis Lindi. I'm sitting here listening to you, and I'm having goosebumps on my body because what you are saying actually needs to be said in bigger platforms, need to be heard by most people who are in leadership at this present juncture. I am actually sold to the idea that where you said leaders must insist on excellence, because sometimes when you are a leader, and particularly a female leader, and you are nurturing and helping your people, that is misunderstood as being accepting mediocrity from your team. But you are saying leaders must do everything but still insist on excellence. I think that is very important, because in leadership, it is important that we instill accountability in our teams. We ensure that whatever they do, in the understanding tone that we pass the message in, they still have to account. And there is this concept of consequential management, which needs to be integrated and embraced within the spirit of assuring and nurturing. I also loved your idea that a leader should not be threatened by the team, by the followers. Indeed, a good leader should not be. Unfortunately, I was listening to one of the series, and somebody was saying most of the leaders that we have in offices today are narcissistic in nature. They are threatened all the time. They see a threat whenever a person exhibits strength, which they deem to be more than what they have. So it is important that as leaders, we adopt this attitude of saying the success of your team ultimately is your success. Now, as we identify potentially in the people that are coming before us, we guide them and we ensure them that we put them in the trajectory that is in line with the development of the organization. I'll give an example. I'm in higher education, and I once had a colleague of mine coming to my office wanting to further their studies. They already had a master's qualification, but they wanted to do another master's qualification because it was something that they felt that they were passionate about. But after some interaction and understanding that in higher education, the vertical trajectory is more important than the horizontal one, they understood that they could follow their passion later, but maybe let them first acquire a PhD, because you will know academia is a world of prejudice. You know, as I sit here today, that individual in particular, they showed me the notes that I wrote in their application when I did not approve the application some years ago. When they got their qualification, they sent me a picture and said, this is the note that changed their lives, because today they are sitting with a PhD and they've actually discovered more passion than the one they thought they have. But more importantly, they've discovered a better standing in the realm where they are operating. So there is not much to add in what Sis Lindi has said. Sis Lindi has said everything that an assuring and a nurturing leader need to embrace. And I think Dr. Mazibuko, I think your challenge here is knock at further doors, talk to more people so that they can hear this type of conversation. Because if we could have this quality of leadership in our entities, whatever organizations they are, we will have a better country indeed. We have resources here. We have quality human resources. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thanks for your contribution. Shall we then go to Ntosh Mafumbata? Ntosh, please come in.
Doc.
You may proceed, Ntosh.
All right, can you hear me though?
Perfect.
All right. Good afternoon to my fellow panelists as well, and to whoever is able to listen to my voice at this particular time. It's a wonderful afternoon to actually end the weekend on such influential thoughts that we are actually sharing with the different ladies Sorry, Dr. Mazibuko, you are outnumbered this time. The ladies that are in this room right now. However, I think on the topic of the day, Sis Lindi, hello, my dear. I haven't spoken with you in a long time. It's good to hear a lady of such a caliber and that has influenced most of us in our journeys of life. And we get an opportunity again to share her thoughts and to actually learn from the thoughts that she shared with us today. Now, I think the one component that is a takeaway from me, first and foremost, is when she's actually analyzed the different categories of society that we are having, which you will see that whether you are a baby boomer, you are a traditionalist, or you are AMA 2000, as we call it, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is that each and every one of us, there is something in us that has been already been plugged in us. There's a purpose that we all have that has been created in us. And when we get to a point of having an opportunity either to be nurtured or to be mentored or to be assured as well, it actually plants into an already existing seed that just needs to culminate and germinate into something bigger. So what she actually, when she was identifying the different categories, it actually emphasized to me how we're supposed to be learning from these three categories that she actually highlighted on. We are in a transformational state. It is the reality. And as part of transformation as human beings is that we are being nurtured. We have children that expect us to nurture them and continue to assure them that they are going to be something in the world because there is a purpose that they have been given when they've been put into this world. And as human beings, when we nurture them and we ensure that we mentor them into positivity to give them that confidence, it takes them into the world that is not just going to define who they are, but is going to nourish what has been created within them. Again, Sis Lindi highlighted the fact that there's a lot of intimidation from each other. And the intimidation of the leaders that we are is coming from the fact that maybe some of us, we didn't get that assurance that we so wished we could have had. But it's not all doom and gloom, because as leaders that are in the space that we are now, we have a responsibility of not assuming that when a person is appointed in a corporate environment as a leader, that person automatically understands what their responsibility is. It is our responsibility to ensure that as part of coaching, as part of training them, you put a program that will enable them to grow. And in their growing, they would enhance what they have. Remember, for you as a leader to give to someone else, you must first understand yourself, Dr. Mazibuko. If you don't know yourself, you won't know the capability that you have. You will not be able to drive that vision of the team that you are leading, because you also don't know and define what drives you as a person, because it also helps you to identify with the vision of the organization or the community that you are leading. And when you have identified with that, seamlessly, you are able to transfer those skills. You are able to inculcate that culture. You are able to groom that young person. You are able to applaud when they've done very well. And you are able to feel comfortable with the achievement of the desired end state that you would have. Remember, as a leader, we there, not necessarily by the fact that we were coached, we were learning as we were going along. Some of us didn't get that opportunity to get that coaching. Some of us didn't get the opportunity to learn from someone else. But when you get into that role, make sure that you create that conducive environment for that person to be able to grow. I'm coming from an environment. I've read something that says time decides who you meet in life. It is not up to you. You don't dictate that. But you have a responsibility of ensuring that that person or that team that you have met, you are able to change them and nourish them into something better. And then it also says your heart decides who you keep in your life. because that one you have a choice of choosing that team that's going to work. You have a choice of being in that organization that you want to be in. But then it also says your behavior decides who stays in your life. Because if you are intimidated, people will leave you. If you are intimidated, they will leave, and actually you will find yourself asking yourself, why is everybody leaving? But if your behavior itself, which is guided by your confidence that you have, and it is transferred to your team and your colleagues as well, I promise you, you'll do better. Thank you, Dr. Mazibuko.
Thank you so much, Josh, for your contribution. I want us to move on to Professor Habile, followed by Sis Nozipo. In that order, Professor Habile, followed by Sis Nozipo. Charlie. Over to you, Prof.
Good afternoon, colleagues.
Good afternoon.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Mazibuko, for setting up this meeting. It's such a powerful, insightful meeting indeed, and thank you for our guest speaker. I just want to go back to her speech about what she mentioned, that she's never really shared it with anyone, about her childhood, what her mother did, you know, when she went to sell her wares in the streets, she took her along. And with time, she then would allow her to go on her own. And it speaks to me about what we keep referring to as mentorship, that we need to walk the walk with our mentees. You just don't throw them out there. You walk the walk with them. And for example, I want to just re-emphasize that, for example, if I am invited into a meeting, I need to take my junior with me. Can you imagine the impact that person will have when I go in and I say, I'm Professor so-and-so, and I'm here with my junior? With time, my junior gains confidence on themselves. People begin, by virtue of this person working with me, people begin to associate this person with some clout, and they gain confidence in my mentee. So when Sis Lindi was referring to the times when her mom could not be there, but these people who were the customers, they knew that from this young lady, they could buy something that they are used to. So, and that's why we need to just not pay lip service to mentorship. We need to walk with our protege and bring them along and walk the walk with them. I, as a head of department, if I'm asked to write an article, I invite a young person. The minute that people click on my name, so-and-so appears. And with time, this person begins to also be visible. So we need to really make sure that where we walk, we open doors. And that is what sometimes the leaders of today are being accused of. We close the doors on others. You know, we go up the ladder and we kick it. We kick it so that no one else comes behind to follow. And we need to stop that. We need to stop the fact that I should be the only one who goes up. The second part I just want to also lean on that she mentioned is about not being jealous of my junior, but also not being jealous of my colleagues who are also in the game with me. You know, there is a saying that says, as a leader, you don't, any leader that thinks that they have it all is deceiving people. Firstly, they are deceived and they're deceiving others. You know, as a leader, I need to recognize that I don't have all the strengths. I don't have all the abilities. I need to point my mentee to say, spend time also with so-and-so, and you will learn X, Y, and Z. They're still my mentee. But, you know, I need to be able to say, if you go attend that other course, because from there you will learn this and that. You know, being able to recognize that you are the first amongst equals. No, you don't have all the answers. And therefore, we need to be able to open doors to people who come across. So I really want to otherwise echo every other thing that has been said. And that's just my 2 pence of addition to everything else. Thank you so much, Dr. Payne.
Thank you so much, Prof. Much appreciated. Sorry to cut there. Shall we go to Sis Nozipo, and then from Sis Nozipo, we'll then go to Sis Nomusa. In that order, Sisino Charlie, and then Nomusa Kwanazi.
Good afternoon, Dr. Mazibuko. Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
Thank you so much, Sis Lindi. Let me put on the video. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sis Lindi, for your great presentation. I just want to comment that I'd like the fact that you have mentioned that great leaders expect and support their mentees to exceed and go far beyond what they have achieved. She also gave us an example of Elijah and Elisha and Elijah and Elisha. Also, I just want to comment on the demographics, the 4 generations that she mentioned, the baby boomers, etc., etc. And these groups, they give us insights. When you lead these demographics, you need to attend to their current backgrounds. For instance, if you're addressing in English or you're addressing in vernacular, more especially in churches, because you need to strike the balance amongst these groups. Don't expect that one size fits all. So if I can make an example about the hymn books, you find that the baby boomers, they still believe that they need the hymn books. The millennials, they want the screens. So because the baby boomers, maybe their vision is poor, they cannot see well, so they still prefer to have the hymn books. So you need to strike the balance there and do have a screen, and also do allow those who still prefer to have hymn books. Thank you so much. It's important to strike the balance among these demographics. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sis Nozipo, much appreciated. Shall we go to Sis Nomusa Kwanazi? Please come in, Sis Nomusa. Have your say on the issues of the day.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Mazibuko, for putting this together. Sorry, let me get my video. Sorry, I don't have the best slides. Thank you, Dr. Mazibuko, for putting this together. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Sis Lindi, for the very informative presentation. I just want to comment on your first quotation about Ellen White. Basically, I'm going to equate that because what she's talking about, I did not memorize the direct quotation, but I think it talks to the qualities of the leadership, where she talks about honesty, where leaders should not be sold or be bought, men and women. So I can link this to what happened with Jeremiah. If you read Jeremiah 38, you'll find the story where Jeremiah was prepared because of telling the truth, what was going to happen, what God had told him about the people, that if they don't leave the city, they were either going to die of famine or plague. He insisted on the truth and he stood by his truth, even when they wanted to throw him into the system. He was prepared to stand for the truth, which I think is very important for the leaders. It doesn't matter what's going to happen to you, as long as you stand for the truth. That is very important for leadership, because if you are dishonest, then it becomes difficult to lead people with lies, so to say. I think our current situation right now is that we somehow lack the leaders that can stand for the truth and honesty. So I think we should insist on the truth and hope that we will have somebody, an Abed Melek, that is going to negotiate for us in case we get into trouble. And the other important one for me, Sis Lindi, was around the resilience of leaders, that leaders need to be resilient in good times and in bad times. I can make an example of this by linking what happened to Alison Botha, who was raped, stabbed, slit throats, and disemboweled in 2006 outside her home. Even in difficult times where she couldn't call for help, and when the perpetrators had left the scene and left her alone, she didn't lose hope. She was resilient to an extent that somehow she kneeled, basically walked on her knees using her sandals to try and get into the road and get help. So it's important for leaders that you don't only call yourself a leader in good times. Even in bad times, you need to lead, and you need to have that resilience to say, even when things are not happening as they should be, you also need to take, you need to be there and also have some responsibility. Delegating to people does not mean you're delegating accountability, you delegate under the responsibility. So for me, those are the important takes that I took from the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sis Nomsa. And in the interest of time, shall we then move on to Kilebohile, followed by Cindy Machike. In that order, Kile, please come in.
Can you see me? Good
Perfect.
afternoon, and thank you so much. I literally agree with the presentation. Those are the kind of things that also when I was looking at, I was like, these are key things. But I think Mam Lindi got me when she started speaking about her grandmother. And it sort of tweaked so many things in me that I think we tend to confuse education with classroom. There is a way that over time we have confused that if you have not been to school, well, in its formal structure, if you've not been to varsity, you are not educated. And too often I take people back, and especially for those of us that were raised by our grandmothers, I take them back and I tell them lessons of life that I got from men and women that have never seen the insides of the classroom. And over time, with the so-called MBAs, and I think we have become masters at being arrogant with our MBAs and with our PhDs, where we are permanently head damaged and permanently pulling people down. We are using our education wrong. We have now gone to school to look down on those that have not gone to school. But for me, leadership has always been about presence. It starts with you, and Mam Lindi caught that on so well. It starts with you. You cannot lead. In fact, there's a saying that you cannot give what you do not have. Everything starts with you, but for you to be able to lead, you need to be present. And presence is literally you realizing the gaps, you realizing that there's a piece of paper here, I may not go over it, you know? For me to be that change that I want to see, presence doesn't say, where's Mam Lindi to do this and that she spoke about this, she spoke about that. This is me being present enough to say, this is what Mam Lindi spoke about the other day, and I'm going to try it and I'm going to practice it. This is me saying, here's a young woman that is going through this, that, and the other that I have experienced or may not have experienced, but I think I can help her. When I often talk about leadership as well, I tend to give a quiz of where does leadership happen? Is it at the backstage or in the performance where the action is happening? And a lot of people tend to think it's in the front stage. But there's so much leadership that happens at the back, because at the front it's done. You can't lead. There's nothing. It's literally is a product of what has been happening. So who are we? And Nelson Mandela spoke a lot about this. Be that leader that leads from behind. Because when you're in the front, that's you taking glory and everything else. You're like, yay, I was here, I was the leader, I'm the product of that. But leaders don't do that. Leaders don't instill fear. They talk to respect. And once your people are afraid of you, they don't respect you, you know. And again, this is some of the things that Mam Lindi spoke about. For me as well, as a leader, are you conscious about creating a legacy? If you are holding everything to yourself. And like Prof saying, let's bring in the interns into the meetings. And Prof, I invite you to consider as well, not even saying, this is Kilebohile, I'm in the meeting now, and this is my junior. Let's also say to them, this is my colleague. Nobody needs to know that a junior or an intern or something, but that also gives them a bit of a, oh, wow, I'm recognized, and a bit of confidence, and then they step up as well. I've seen it happening in many of the meetings where they have been invited. But I was saying, leadership is about creating a legacy. When things can happen without you, you must know that you've done well.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Okay, that's Siri now being silly. When things can happen without you, you must know that you have done well. So 20 years ago, I was at the Department of Tourism, and there was this young woman that was just giving me so much. I think she tested my leadership. She really, really tested me out. But with her, I learned to be firm. Am I still there? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
you. Yes.
Oh,
I can hear
okay.
you.
All right. I'm almost done. But I learned to be firm. I learned to not be personal, because as well, sometimes as leaders, we tend to be personal. I learned to identify that you need to know the strong and the weak points. And you don't just give somebody a promotion because you like them. Sometimes even that person that you really, really like are not ready for that promotion. And that is what leadership is about. It's about being assertive, being able to say yes and no and be firm, you know. But the long and short of all of it for me, it's about creating a legacy. Always leave it better than you found it, you know. And if you are leading from a place of love, you cannot go wrong. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you so much, Kile. Much appreciated. Cindy, I wanted to come in, but I wanted to answer the following for us. Is assuring and nurturing leadership a deal breaker for future leaders? Cindy, over to you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon, Cindy. Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you, Dr. Page. Thank you to our guest speaker, Lindi Mthombeni. Can you repeat that again, Dr. Mazibuko?
Yeah, I wanted to tell us, what are your views? Is assuring and nurturing leadership a deal breaker for future and effective leaders?
My answer could easily be no. The reason being, assuring is not necessarily transferring what is being assured to the recipient. Are you with me? So for example, sometimes there is misinterpretation in the process of assuring. It depends on how a message is transferred to a child. For example, as a mother, I'm going to start at home, like Sis Lindi said, a mother is a leader. So the way you are brought up sometimes does not necessarily end up being how you are going to show up in the community or in a workplace or in your role at wherever you are. So assuring and nurturing sometimes is not a deal breaker, is not a for sure, but it just depends on how it is done and how it is received. Sometimes we tend, as leaders and as parents, we tend to project what we want instead of transferring a skill. We project ourselves. We project to our children, we project to our employees. That sometimes is not well received because this person has not been prepared for what is being projected at them. For example, I will take a baby. When a baby is born, they have natural milestones that they have to go through. And as parents, we tend to compare our babies with our friends' babies or with our own babies, like the older children. so and so was able to walk, was able to crawl, was able to talk at that age. So you tend to project things to children or to employees, and as a result, our projections, our displacement is not well received, and we receive resistance from people that we are trying to mold, we are trying to build. All is well with us as mothers, as leaders. We want to transfer a skill, but it's not, it is the way that we transfer a skill that determines how it's going to be received. Usiskile Bogile mentioned something about being fully present. Being fully present is one of the components of emotional intelligence. That is something that is very big. People talk about it, and there's a lot of not understanding what it is. And as a result, we tend to apply emotional intelligence instead of living it, instead of making it a way of life, so that people can understand, can see what we are doing and want to do it, instead of the other way around, instead of us as leaders wanting people to do things the way we want to do them. We fail to model. So we are not using emotional intelligence. I mean, we are using emotional intelligence. We are not living it. It's not being observed. We are reading the qualities of an emotional intelligent leader, and then we want to apply it, and then we want to assure it, and then we want to apply it in nurturing instead of living it, instead of demonstrating it, so that the person that is observing can follow. I don't know if I've answered you.
Yeah, I hear you, Cindy. I'm going to come back to you, but I just want to go to Zine just now. Zine, please, I want you to come in and talk to us. Is it possible that as I carry on with my business, I can be able to engage a person and say, this person missed out on some nurturing or some assuring at a young age? Zine, please come in. Zine, please come in. All right. Zine, are we there? All right, colleagues, let's move on. I want to go to Notemba. Notemba, let's talk about the issues of our country right now, Notemba, as I wanted to come in. And also separate leadership role from leadership position. What we've seen at this modern time is that we've got a number of people who happen to be in a leadership position, but they've got very little to show from being able to discharge their leadership roles. What are your views on that, Notemba, in relation to what we've discussed today? Notemba, please come in.
Good evening, Dr. Mazibuko, and all the other colleagues. I'll call them colleagues, the panelists. Thank you so much for an opportunity and the platform that you've created for us. I would like to start by thanking Mrs. Lindi Mthombeni for a well-concise presentation, and the leaders that have spoken before me. You have put in a group of women who are powerful and passionate about the subject, and one can read and see that they live what they talk about. Coming to your question, Dr. Mazibuko, Mrs. Lindi put in a quote from Miles Monroe, where it says, great leaders do not desire to lead, but they serve. Coming back to your question, I just want to start by putting something that will help us think along those lines. You as a leader or in the leadership role, you want to create a future, and you need to have questions as to why you want to create this future. Say, for instance, at home, you have your own children and you want to bring your children in a manner that will take your kids to a certain a future or a plausible future, if I must say. So what you do is, as you're creating this future, you need to be strategic, you know, the strategic planning. And the true strategic planning is transformational. You have the long, medium, and the short-term strategies that you need to implement as you're creating this future, this vision that you want to see in a long term. As you do that, you need to exercise the implementation as well. That's where the change management comes in, because when you train or when you lead, as you have asked Mr. Mazibuko, as to what the difference between the leadership position and the leadership role. Leading, it takes time. It's a rigorous process. You have to be passionate. You have to be. It takes time. It takes resources. It takes energy, emotion, and you have a hope in the process. Therefore, it's important that you have a knowledge. You are decisive. You have precision, and it must be planned accordingly. However, if you are in a leadership position, you are sitting in the position whereby by that time you should have had an exposure, you should have had that knowledge as to how do you go about coaching and mentoring people that are your subordinates, or even people that are your direct colleagues. For them, for all of you to achieve a certain vision that you are anticipating or that you want to achieve at the end of the day.
Thank you so much, Dr. Temba. Zine, are you back now? Are you able to connect? Zine, please confirm. Zine Janisa, please confirm. Okay, colleagues, I want us to move on now. The next part of our journey for today is what I call. Yes, Zine, please, thanks a lot. I'm glad you are in. We want to see you there. Yes, please turn your video. Can you hear me? All right. Zine, please, I wanted you to talk to us and tell us whether or not you are able to identify a person who's now in a particular role, that this person missed out on some nurturing and some assuring at an early stage. Can you switch on your video as well, Zine, as you talk to us? Okay, proceed. And unmute as well, Zine. Yes, we can see you now. Please, can you unmute? Try and unmute, Zine. Yes, proceed.
Good evening.
Zine, please switch off your video and just talk. I think your network is struggling. Just switch off your video, but just talk to us.
Yeah.
Zine, can you switch off your video?
Yes.
Yes. Zine, kindly switch off your video, but do talk to us. It's fine. Let's just use audio for now. Okay, Zine, can I just keep it for now? Please, if you don't mind, in the interest of time. Okay, Zine, I'm going to ask that we skip you for now, and I want to bring in Professor Ndazi. Please, Prof, based on everything that you've just said, I want us to make a call for action. And just be succinct now. What is it that you would give to us as a call to action based on the discussions of today? Prof Ndazi, go first.
Okay, I was trying. Establish. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm saying firstly, it is to establish platforms, more platforms for this type of a conversation. I am finding this conversation to be non-intimidating. It's not, it is an honest conversation that anyone in a reasonable and interested in leadership should be interested in. Yet it is not confrontational. It is not challenging the thefts of individuals. So my suggestion would be to find more platforms for these conversations, even to run short seminars for leaders, for people who are aspiring for leadership and also for people in leadership. Because in that way, then we are able to disseminate this information to bigger forums, which then might be able to impact on the way we do things as a country. Because as a country, there's a lot that we don't do as leaders, yet we still remain in offices as leaders. It could be just because of lack of knowledge, but it could also be because as much as people know what they're expected to do, those around them don't know what to expect from leaders. And the more people are taught, the more people are made aware of these conversations, then it's the more people are starting to call for accountability from the leaders that are running in offices.
Thank you so much, Prof. I am quite pleased with your contribution. I want to go to our guest speaker right now. Sis Lindi, I want you to come in, give us your views in terms of the call to action, and also be succinct as well.
Thank you, Prophet. I want to agree with the Prof. It's something that's been at the back of my mind, that we really, you've started something very powerful, Prof. Dr. Pet, something very powerful that starts getting leaders to engage, start leaders to have honest conversation. But I think maybe in the future it will pick up, but I feel that there's a sense of agency in the country where we need to increase the scope of participation, to make sure that we start influencing and creating room for change in how we lead as a country. Especially at the moment, if you look at the state of our economy and you look at where we are with the levels of unemployment, starting to engage on how we can propel ourselves to an even better platform to be able to create more opportunities for more people. We need to have this engagement. I think we're not being honest with there's so many failures in different entities, in different spheres. Most of it has to do with leadership. And unless if we're really being honest with one another and start pushing for engagement and opportunities to honestly engage and challenge each other, we're not going to see a quick move into transforming the state of our economy. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, I've got two gentlemen. I know today is about ladies, but I'm tempted just to bring in just two gentlemen, just to contribute. The first one is Polane, Mr. X, and then Marvin Ncube. Polane, please, can you just contribute to our esteemed ladies, but just like half a minute? Polane, what do you put as a call to action?
Hi, thank you very much, Dr. Mazibuko. Good evening, colleagues. Dr. Mazibuko, maybe you'll have to forgive my video. It's going to be very dark.
Okay.
I did not anticipate to talk in this forum. I was more of a listener and learning. Yes, Dr. Mazibuko, thank you very much. And all the colleagues, the panelists that have contributed into the topic. Maybe my 2 cent worth of opinion or contribution will be that the culture of nurturing leadership, it's very important. If you go back to the history in our culture, the learning used to be transferred from the elderly into the younger one. There was this culture and a network of nurturing leadership. And it might seem like with times, we have taken less interest by investing in the young coming leaders, by teaching each other the values of our society, the values of our community. Sharing those values is very important in order for us to ensure that we're going to have ethical, good leaders. We have to share the values from one generation to another generation, from one group to another group. The nature of nurturing leadership is very essential, is as important as life within leadership itself. And I think if we take this message out of this platform as we depart, what have we learned here, and implement and identify within our group, within our network, within our systems, within our organization, people that we will invest in terms of imparting the leadership that we have learned, we will build a society, a community of leaders. Thank you very much, Dr. Mazibuko.
Thank you so much. Let me just take stock. Zine, are you able to talk to us without video? Zine, please confirm. Can you give us your call to action as well? Zine? Proceed, Zine. Yeah, Zine, I think let's just take a decision for today that we're struggling to hear you. So we will see how well we incorporate to in some future sessions and making sure that the network is on our side. Let's move on to Sinozipho. Sinozipho, please give us your views in terms of the call to action based on what we've said today. Nozipho, please be succinct.
I agree with Prof. Dlazi that we need to have more platforms like this, and also people to have people who will mentor them, who will guide them, who will advise them. I think mentorship is very, very important. Yes.
Thank you so much, Sinozipho, for your call to action. Mentorship is very important. I want to move on to Notemba. Notemba, please, let's hear your views in terms of the call to action.
Thank you, Dr. Mazibuko. The call to action, Dr. Mazibuko, like many have mentioned, that it's assuring and nurturing starts at home. We need to go back to basics. We have to be intentional, you know, when when we mentor or when we raise our children, I just want to refer to a script whereby it says we need to train and raise our children the way God wants them to be, so that I'm just putting in my own understanding. He says he must train and raise our children in a manner that he wants them to be, and when we're not there, they will not do the things that they are not trained to, or they will, even if they go astray, they will come back and remember what they've been taught when they were young. And if that happens very early in their life, they will be able to, as they grow and go into work environment, or just as they go out there and meet different people, they will carry that with them. However, where do we start? Because unfortunately out there, there are homes which are led by children themselves. Where do we start? Platforms like this, yes. However, we are here because we are privileged. Some of those people doesn't have an access to what we have. So it's very important that we have dialogues, we go to the communities, humbly go to the communities and we speak their language, because it's very important that you go back to the township, you speak the language that they understand, and by so doing, you are able to end them and let them be part of what you want to achieve.
Thank you, Nothemba, for your contribution. I want to go to Sis Nomsa, followed by Kile. And ladies, please tell me, what are your call to action based on what we've discussed? Sis Nomsa and Kile, in that order.
Thank you, Dr. Mazibuko. For me, I'm going to agree with Nothemba. We need to go back to basics. We need to hold parents accountable, and they need to be intentional with parenting. Because most of the foundation for leadership you learn at home. We had Lindi telling us this. And there's this, I don't know, it's a trend where when someone has outdone themselves and then they get asked maybe on television interviews or radio interviews who they are, who's their mentor or who's the person that inspires them. They tend to quote the politicians or the people that they see on TV, which is somehow not always the truth, because the people that really mentor and shape you as you grow are your immediate families. I understand that some people are not, do not get raised by their families for one reason or the other. Some households are headed by children. But most of the things you learn at home, and most mothers have done a great job, including my mother, who used to demonstrate leadership skills, whether in church or at home, and was not afraid to stand by her truth. If there's no reason, if you want to go and sleep over, she was not going to tell you that because other kids in the neighborhood are doing it, then you should do it. So as parents, we need to be intentional about parenting. And then as people go through the education system, I think it is important to assure and nurture leadership from that point of growing up. And once people have been appointed to the positions of leadership, they also need to be held accountable for their actions of omission or commission. I agree with all the other colleagues that have spoken before me, but I think at the end of the day, we need to see, especially for this country, we need to see some accountability for people's actions, because otherwise the people will come and go, new leaders will come in, and if you don't hold them accountable, the cycle will repeat itself and will never come out of the situation. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Dr. Mazibuko.
Thank you so much, Nomsa, for your great contribution. Shall we then go to Kile? Kile, have your say on the issues of the day.
Thank you. I think we must also be realistic, right? For a lot of us Black people, leadership is somewhat of something that is not even discussed. I think at an early age, we have led and we were not even aware of the leadership. And like I said, Mam Lindi was speaking and narrating stories from her grandmother that she didn't even realize the power that was there, the leadership that was exposed. So going to grassroots, it also is about us. When you have learned, it is your responsibility to teach. One of the greatest women that have walked the earth is Mother Teresa. She did not have any kids, but because she had seen what is required, she made it her business to teach. She made it her business to lead by example, to rope in so many people, and she has left a legacy. And that's one of the reasons I am so very passionate about creating and leaving a legacy. I liked what someone said, and I forgot who it was. Please, I apologize. But there was a mention of leadership and people imposing, and that is so true, because sometimes it's like almost like when parents want to live through their kids. So you almost see a potential in someone and you want to somehow say, I see myself in you, but that's not leadership, right? Leadership is not imposing. Leadership is creating and enabling an environment for somebody to realize their own potential. You help them, you guide them to get there, you provide options, you lead by example, you stand on the side, you stand behind them, you carry them sometimes where it needs to be done, but you just show them how to get to what needs to be, how it needs to be done. We must listen more. There's 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We must go to the people, and I hate it when we say we must talk down or come down to their level. No, let us be at their level. Let's talk to people when we get there, explain, talk to them, listen to them, and make them realize how, like we are saying now, there's households that are led by kids. There are so many things that kids at school are doing that are showing leadership. Let's work from there. Let's show them that these are the skills that you're talking about that you can grow from. I insist, for me, really, it's about leading from a place of love, because when it comes from a good place, you cannot go wrong. When we do have the positions, can we please use them wisely? As women, we are so good at stretching a lot to create more. Let's stand in our power and let's just nurture and create more leaders. And this can be done, and really, this is an awesome platform. More of these conversations are required. Let's be that change that we want to see. I'm proud to be a woman, and I'm proud to be able to influence and coach and mentor those that I can. And I really wish I could reach out to more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kile. I took a lot from you as well. I want to go to Usindi, followed by Professor Habile. And I would want our esteemed ladies as well to give us their views in terms of the call to action. Cindy and then Prof, in that order.
Hello again. Thank you for the opportunity. The call to action, as the speakers before me has mentioned, I think it is going back to the communities, going back to the masses of where the masses of people are in South Africa, the townships, the rural areas, and creating something similar to this, where we have discussions with people. We don't come in to impose, but we come in to listen to their stories in order to find out where they are, so that we can meet them where they are and walk with them. We cannot lead them, but we need to walk with them so that they can find their own way of coming out of their situations. Because if we come in and create platforms that they don't understand, maybe that are too complicated for them, we are going to leave them behind. Only a few are going to be part of the conversation. But I think it's going back to the people and creating platforms similar to this at the level of that community, whether they gather under the tree or in a community hall or wherever, on a regular basis, and have discussions with them. We can come up with topics, but we need to let them come up with their own topics that are going to address their own needs at that particular community. Because it is only when they understand their own needs that they will be able to create platforms that are conducive to solving their own problems, instead of someone coming to impose on them or display on them what they need. That is my view. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cindy. All much appreciated. Shall we then go to Prof. Habile? Let's have your views.
Yes, thanks once again, Dr. Pat and all the colleagues. Yeah, I think as a parting shot for me is that we need to really realize that we are here as leaders simply because as human beings, we want to be led. It's the nature of human beings to be led. The Bible says, without a vision, the people go, they lose restraint. So if we don't give direction, the people under us are likely just to do as they please, or the system will just collapse in our presence as so-called leaders. So I think the first point for me is to realize that people want to be led. But in this dispensation, we need leaders with integrity. We need leaders who are very ethical, and that point has been mentioned. And for me, as a last point, maybe to say, and we've mentioned this, that we need to be intentional in our creating new leaders. Somebody says success without a successor is failure. So we need to make sure that we are leaders who have an eye to see potential in others. Amongst the people that we led, as I said, people want to be led, but amongst those, there will be those that have potential for leadership role. And those are the ones that we are talking about, that we need to assure that they ascend to those positions and they are nurtured and mentored along the way. But, we would not be leaders without followers. Even amongst the followers, we need to identify their strengths and maximize their strengths and be able to show them that there are many people, by the way, who are very happy to just follow. But even in following, they can develop the characteristic of self-leadership. And when they have mastered the self-leadership, they'll be an asset to your institution. They'll be an asset to your organization. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And before I move on to Roland and Dosh, I want to still just like half a minute and bring in Chris. Chris, please come in. What are your views on what has been discussed right now? Chris, please come in. Please, Chris, can you unmute? We can't hear you.
No, I'm unmuted. I'm not sure why it is not coming.
Now we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, no, thanks very much. I think what stood out for me is that leadership is key in any sphere of life. So it does not matter whether it's a family, it's an organization, it's a church, it's a soccer team, anywhere. So leadership is a common theme. So I think it's something that is worthy for us to invest our energy and efforts in trying to nurture and mold leadership. And of course, I would like to thank very much to our mothers, because they play a very critical role, which we need to all acknowledge. So I think for me, thanks very much for the lessons which I've learned. I think it will be helpful for us to also share these lessons to our little ones to make sure that we can grow the nation in terms of leadership. We already have a serious leadership crisis in the country. So I think we need to make sure that how do we influence direction so that we don't stand back and see our nation being destroyed by people who are supposed to be leaders, but are doing their own things to advance their personal gains. So let us take ownership as the nation, as leaders, so that we don't watch as things get destroyed to the level which is more of a crisis. So thanks very much for the opportunity, Dr. Pat.
Thank you so much, Chris. I want to go to Ndosh and then Rulani, and then after Rulani, I will then bring Sis Lindi to issue her closing comment, and then after Sis Lindi, we'll then gonna go to Prof. Habile to issue a vote of thanks. In that order, it's Ndosh, and then Rulani, and then Sis Lindi to issue a closing comment as our guest, and then we'll then hand over to Prof. to do the vote of thanks. Ndosh.
Dr. Mazibuko, I think from a call to action, first and foremost, let's do an introspection. Are we doing the right things right? Are you as a person doing the right things right? Are you walking the talk that we say we must actually do? So let's introspect and look at what kind of leaders we are, first and foremost. And then understand that as we lead within our own corners where we are at, everybody is watching what you are doing, whether it is your child or it is your colleague. They are watching what you're doing, and whatever that you are giving out, you must expect that it will also come back to you. Secondly, I think it's also important that we, as part of our call to action, let's go out there. Let's make the change we want to see. Let's not stay inside our doors and expect everybody to do something and we don't do anything. We sit in our cozy little corners. Go out into the spaces that have got colleagues and young people, be present and make a contribution. It can be a contribution as a conversation that we are doing right now, or it could be you standing in front of people or actually mentoring the very people or colleagues that you are working with. We are in a South Africa that is transforming, and this South Africa requires all of us to take action and not point fingers, but to do something. That's all I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ndosh. Shall we then go to Rulani? Rulani?
Thank you so much, Doc. And thank you so much, colleagues. Today was really, truly inspiring. In terms of call of action, we understand from the Bible that faith without action is dead. So even us here talking and believing and, getting encouraged and inspired, if we don't act, it won't mean anything going forward. So where do we start? We need to truly reflect on ourselves, look at the continuous development of ourselves, because we need to be pouring from the cup that is full. So as I sit today, I realize how much, even myself as a leader, this is a requirement. And in terms of us, where we are in our own spheres, in our own spaces, we are leaders at home, we are leaders in terms of our communities, we are leaders in terms of our work, and there's so many potential leaders that are so afraid. They are led by different fears. We need ourselves to understand, how do we unleash the potential? How do we unleash the potential of other leaders? How do we make them shine? How do we make them sparkle going forward in terms of them leading, in terms of how do we grow leaders? How do we surround ourselves with people who are better than us? And how do we not get intimidated as we do that? How do we shine the light? I think going forward, in terms of call of action, we need to be reflecting on those. We need to be understanding that there are quite a lot of leaders that are afraid of the fear rejection. And one thing that I can maybe give away as a last in terms of takeaway, let us understand that life and us to succeed is about selling. It's either we sell our times, either we sell something. So let us have the skill of not being rejected as we go out and sell ourselves, our brand, what we do, and also our leadership to others. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rulani, all much appreciated. As I bring Usis Lindi to issue her parting shot, I want to give a little bit of a brief. Sis Lindi, in basically giving us your closing comment, you can probably talk to us about what we need to stop, what we need to start, also what we need to continue. Come in briefly, and then we can hand over to Prof for a vote of thanks. Sis Lindi.
Thank you very much to all that participated in this conversation. I must say, I've also been enriched by these discussions. I think I want to put a challenge to everybody that has had an opportunity to gather here, even those who are watching this in the future. If you are not mentoring anybody, if you're not having anybody under your wings that you're guiding, I currently have 10 young people that I'm mentoring. I have a program. It's not in word or that I'm mentoring them. I have a program that we're running with the young people, including every other week reading a book on young people, how they need to carry themselves, how they need to handle themselves. The story of leadership in South Africa needs to be real. It needs not be something that we do when we get together and then we leave and nothing happens. There are a lot of young people who are dying because they don't have hope, who are dying because they don't have direction. We need not wait for the parents, because sometimes you find that in those circumstances where the parent is not available, we are already leaders in leadership with an understanding of what is needed. We need to step in and fill in those gaps. Young person's life being changed in front of your eyes. You take a person who's been rough and
Magic, can you still hear Sis Lindi? Please confirm.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, colleagues, I think we've had a lot of network problems today. I am not quite sure why, and some of our scheduled colleagues had a bit of a challenge. Prof, are you there? Can you help us by doing the vote of thanks? Prof, you may come in. I see there's plan B. You may proceed. Magic, please confirm, can you hear me?
So sorry,
Right,
my network is unstable. I just realized now. Apologies for that.
All right, conclude, Sis Lindi. Please, can you conclude, Sis Lindi?
My conclusion is that when we see wrong, we need to correct. We need to, with humility and with the respect.
Okay, sorry for a second. Tate Habile, can I ask you to hold for a while? Let's just allow Sis Lindi to conclude. Sis Lindi, please come in.
I think that concludes my remark, Brapet. What is important is that as leaders, we need to be honest with one another. We need to be prepared to engage one another in order that we can grow and in order that we can be of influence. So I think that will be my parting shot. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sis Lindi. Then shall we go back to Prof? I see that she's making use of Tate Habile's phone. Please, you may proceed.
Yeah, just there's reverberation on the other phone.
Please come again. May Habile please come in?
Yes, no, thank you. I needed to switch off the other device. It was bringing in some reverberation. I was trying to do a plan B. Yes. Once again, we really want to say thank you to you, Dr. Pett, for your vision for what we have just participated in. It's been very, very insightful, and we really want to appreciate your pioneering skills and insights into this type of things. We don't take that very lightly. For someone to take time and use their skill and to bring all the women that are here today, people of notable statures, to have been here. But most importantly, we also just want to say thank you so much to Sis Lindi, I would call her that, a woman of very seasoned leadership. I haven't yet met her, but I've had quite a lot of input from those who have been under her. We've really gained quite a lot from your insights, from your wisdom, referencing the greatest book that ever was, as it says itself that, you know, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and I can pick that in your discussions and in your deliberations. And those very practical examples that you've given us, I'm sure we will be able to garner effort and courage to implement, as some of the speakers have said, that we need to go out there and be practical, be intentional, and do some bit of introspection and bring to the fore the things that we have learned, so that we are not just learners only, but we actually become doers of the things that we've learned. Yeah, and also just to the colleagues, as I have said, that these are notable leaders, people of stature in society, in different platforms. And I'm sure that our paths, for those of us that have never met, did not meet by chance. And thanks to technology today, we can crisscross the country and bring this type of skills together. I just want to wish everyone well. And thank you so much for all the time you've taken on a Sunday evening and bring forth the insights, the wisdom, and the experience that we have brought to one another. It continues to say in the Bible that iron sharpens iron, and I'm sure each one of us have picked up a leaf here and there that we can use in our own leadership wherever we are. Colleagues, we really want to make these type of things practical. As some of us have mentioned, that we need to get our hands dirty, go out there and do things. Sometimes leadership is not just in the front, but it's someone who actually gets their hands dirty. They get on with the business of the day, and people will then lift you up and elevate you and call them your leader. Somebody mentioned that we shouldn't necessarily be saying that we're coming down to people's level, but we should actually reach them at their point. Somebody says that a leader is someone who has empathy. If you are able to identify with the needs of your people, see that those who are under you, much as we expect so much about them or from them, you need to know where they're coming from. What are their limitations? What makes them weak? What makes them strong? So when we put ourselves in their shoes, we are able to lead them better. And on that, we just want to really say thanks to all the participants, thanks to all those who have tuned in. And these type of platforms would not be in any way meaningful had it not been that there is an audience or a few people out there who are yearning to learn and to garner, you know, every form of wisdom from different aspects. Last but not least, we just want to thank the TLG group for their very technical and precise manner of organizing this type of meetings. They are never easy, but when we put our heads together, it is possible. Just to say thank you in particular to Nombuso and Stembile and also the technical team. Thank you so much, colleagues, and back to you, Dr. Pett. Thanks once again.
Thank you so much, Doc. And Prof, let me also re-emphasize the issues of a challenging network today. I have got no idea what happened. And We apologize, but it's things that we do not have any control. But as part of leadership, we find ways of navigating even under those kind of situations. Then two things from me, colleagues. One, I want to say that the next leadership game session is on the 17th of September, on a Saturday, same time, same place. We will be discussing what we call enterprise risk management leadership. I think, colleagues, there is a big gap at this moment in time. We see people putting strategies that lacks insight informed by enterprise risk management, but also in this day and age, colleagues, they are new investors. They are investors who bring in a lot of conscience with them. Hence, the issues of risk, governance, and compliance become key. But of also note, what's coming in the equation are issues of what we call environmental science and governance, ESG, which therefore in my world, I call them the new license to operate. So that one will be on the 17th of September. May I close off by quoting Bridget Sexton. She said, quote unquote, weak leaders measure success by money, they measure success by position, they measure success by power. Strong leaders measure success by the difference they make in other people's life. Thank you so much. And as I said, within the TLT work, we do not really work towards finishing at half past. We have a contract between 1600 and 1830, but if we finish early, it's okay. Thank you so much and be blessed. Have a great time further. Thank you. Goodbye.